Welcome to Lush Life No Labels, a podcast where I talk about the struggles and joys of self improvement, anywhere from relationships, career, wellness, and more. I'm Fatu. I have a very special guest joining me on this week's podcast. Guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Natasha. It's great to be on here. I have a podcast called Lots of Love. Just had Fatu on there as well, so check that out too. But I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. And I'll definitely make sure to tag your podcast and have it in the episode description so that folks can go over and listen to that as well. This week, I have you on to talk about procrastination, which is something that I'm sure everybody and their mother has dealt with before and will probably keep dealing with. Just to jump in with our story of the week, do you have a moment recently happened where you procrastinated?
Yes. So the first thing that came to mind was this is very timely because we are in the throes of tax season, tax day on Tuesday. Just a reminder for anyone who has forgotten. But last weekend, so admittedly, my parents have always taken my taxes to their tax person and had them do it for me. This was the first year where I was in charge of getting it done myself. So I was definitely more stressed out because I was like, ugh, I have to do this. I don't know how it's gonna go, like whatever. And just even getting all the forms together that you need, stuff like that. But then last week, this had been really weighing on my mind, and I was like, you know what? Do it. Let's just get it done. And it literally took less than an hour, so seamless, and I just used like free H&R Block filing system. I felt such a weight lifted off my shoulders after that. Felt stressful too because it was like, okay, as each day passes, we're getting closer to the day that it's due. The idea of it was definitely more daunting than the actual action would be. Basically how everything ever goes, I feel like, with procrastination. When you finally do something, you're like, I could have done this so long ago. And so I was just really glad to have that happen.
That's a great story of the week because, yes, for anyone listening, if you haven't done your taxes, you better get on it because
Yeah.
you are not the president of the US. They will come after you, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's true though. Some of the times when we procrastinate, it is because exactly as you said, it seems more daunting than it
Mhm.
actually ends up being. It's like if
Mhm.
you are like, "Oh, I have to clean the bathroom."
Yeah.
I do this because I drag it. I'm like, "Oh, I'll clean it the next day. Oh, I'll do
Yeah.
XYZ." But then when I do it, it actually doesn't take as long as I thought it would. In my head, it was just too much and too complicated to do it that same day. So
Mhm.
I agree that we certainly go through these times where things are just a lot more than we think. And that's a
Yeah.
great transition into our discussion about
Mhm.
procrastination. Why do you think procrastination is such a common struggle?
Like you are, I'm also an eldest daughter. I also am very particular about things. I'm a Virgo. I invest so much energy into everything I do, and I do it 150%. So because I know that about myself, I often procrastinate or push things off because I know that it's going to take a lot out of me and that I'm going to want it to be perfect. And that's my biggest battle, I think, trying to like unlearn this idea of that everything I do has to be perfect and has to be super impressive. And I think I worry a lot about perception. If it's something, especially with a lot of my creative endeavors, I dream of writing a book at a certain point in time when I was writing a lot more, and I've been struggling with that a lot recently. You know, even putting out like singing videos, for example. I'm very critical and it takes a lot out of me. And so then I just end up not doing it at all. Or one thing that I've tried to take into consideration a lot from like writing community is that it's okay to publish things even if they're bad. The
Mhm.
point is just do it. You have to start from somewhere, even if it's not exactly what you want to do, even if you don't want to go there, just go there and see what happens from it. And I really need to start doing that more because I end up planning so much. I make lists. I plan out, I'm like, okay, this block of time is going to be allotted to this. And then it doesn't actually happen because I'm anticipating it so much. And then I get to it and I'm so anxious about it. I do things. It's very much on a whim. And then I just throw everything and invest it right in that moment. Even with taxes, I wasn't necessarily sitting down to do my taxes right then, but I was like, let me just go to the site and then just see how it goes. And then I ended up doing all of it. So I'd love to also just stick to my routine more instead of getting things done kind of with pressure on the line, but be okay with the plan. I anticipate way too much when it comes to things that I need to do. And it's the same thing with marathon training and stuff like that. It's like, okay, I know that tomorrow morning I have to run X amount of miles or whatever. And I anticipate it so much that I self-sabotage, I stay up too late. You know this is coming either way, so just accept it and just do it. And I think a lot of people struggle with knowing how much effort something will take and how perfect they want it to be. The perfectionists out there can probably relate to this. Doing a bad job is worse than doing nothing at all, almost, which shouldn't be how it is. And I think that also society and capitalism, all these things have made that of us. People don't like to embrace your work if it's not doing something for them.
There's
It's
not
like,
enough empathy.
yeah, one, we also don't need to do everything for other people's consumption.
Hmm.
Two, even if we do, why do we attach so much meaning to views and numbers so much or impact any of us? I've gotten so caught up sometimes in the means of, oh, I need to be producing, I need to be putting something out there, I need to be doing this and that. And when it becomes something that you need to be doing, then you don't want to do it anymore versus just trying to look for the joy in things again. And so that's what I started doing with other little tasks too. Okay, if I know that I need to do the dishes or if I need to do laundry or something, I'll play YouTube videos to watching
I do
and
that too. If I'm washing the dishes, I'm like, let me play this in the background, or I'll play
no,
music or something.
exactly. It's time pass sort of thing. You can make these things fun.
Yes, you're absolutely right. You are a podcaster, a writer, and a singer. You told us that.
Yeah.
Well, that is absolutely fabulous. You're multi-talented.
Oh,
But
thank you.
I agree with what you were saying as well around perfectionism and the need for us to feel like we need to be on all the time.
Mhm.
We need to be
Mhm.
presentable all the time. And by presentable, it means, like you said, having everything good. Sometimes you can put something out that's not as good, and it's okay. And it's funny that you brought that up because I was talking to a friend recently about that, a friend who has ADHD, and
Mm.
he was saying one of the things that I needed to learn or that I'm trying to work on is knowing that it's okay if what I do isn't the best, but at least
Yeah.
I did it, or at least I
Mhm.
tried to do it. Because
Mhm.
sometimes we ruminate and we end up just thinking so much about how to do something that we don't end up doing that same thing.
Mhm.
So it's great that you mentioned that because I want to talk about the different types of procrastinators that are out
Mhm.
there. You mentioned one of them. One of them is the perfectionist, someone who sort of delays the action, kind of due to a fear of imperfectionism in the action.
Mhm.
Another type of procrastinator is somebody who's the overwhelmed person. This person avoids the task due to the size of the task or the complexity
Yeah.
that needs to be done. The other person is a thrill seeker, and these people may not know this consciously, but it's somebody who waits until the last minute
Mm.
for that adrenaline to kick in. And then they're like, okay, I only have 15 minutes until I have to do XYZ. And that's the thing that really carries them through
Mhm.
their mission. And then the final type is the indecisive person. And
Mhm.
the indecisive person struggles with making those decisions. So that leads them to inaction. And I would say anyone who's a procrastinator, I am a procrastinator. I'm
Mhm.
definitely at least one of these things depending on the day or depending
That's the
on.
thing. Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
these are just descriptions, but we can embody one or most of these depending on
Mhm.
the actual action that we have. The
Mhm.
overall thing is that we are a procrastinator in the end, no matter what type we are. And part
Mhm.
of that is just, like I said, the role of fear, perfectionism, or overwhelmingness. I think that's what really leads us to procrastinate.
Yeah, this world is so caught up dimming people's lights as well. Just let people do what they want to do and it doesn't need to be judged or rated or graded or and
Mhm.
there's two sides. Either we know the actions that we're doing will impact other people. So you're like, I don't even want to do it because I don't want to hurt other people. Or you know that it's not going to affect anyone but yourself and then you don't value yourself enough to do those things. I was reading this really interesting Twitter thread once about how someone said that their therapist told them that they are in a toxic, abusive relationship with themselves because they don't have faith that they're going to be that they can do XYZ, or they don't have, or like they keep criticizing themselves and being like, you can't do this, or like this was done badly, so then you end up hurting yourself. Like it's like a constant cycle, right? And I was like, it's gone so far that we are pushed to be hard on ourselves and we're pushing ourselves to be perfect when no one, people that might not even expect that from us, that just results in us becoming so anxious about it that we just don't do anything at all.
You're right. It's interesting that you said that because I've been in therapy for
Mhm.
many reasons. But
Yeah.
One time my therapist, homegirl said, you like to struggle. You like to suffer.
Oh.
And it was pertaining to my lack of boundaries with like family, etc. But she literally
Mhm.
was like, yeah, you're in this situation because you like to suffer. Saying that's something that you're very used to. So
Mhm.
it's a comfortable space for you to be like this.
Mhm.
And I want you to know that that's not okay.
Yeah.
That sometimes we do hurt ourselves in these situations.
Mhm.
It's not always about some external factor that's impacting us. But
Mhm.
especially when it comes to procrastinating something, we are the one procrastinating, to be fair.
Yeah.
One is, unless somebody's telling you don't do that right now, we're the ones telling ourselves that for many
Yeah.
things. But I would say that it is so hard to get out of, right? Especially when you have that
Mhm.
fear and the overwhelm about the situation. But I really like what you said about the taxes, that it just, a lot of things, honestly, if you're a procrastinator who listens to this episode, a lot of
Mhm.
things that we procrastinate, if you really think back on it, you could have done that earlier. It
Yeah.
actually probably didn't take as much time as you thought.
Yeah.
Natasha said. Like we really do psych ourselves out so much and make things so much harder for ourselves for no reason. I say that because I do that. And
No, literally, being an eldest daughter, I think
Mhm.
you also are kind of with the idea of like your therapist told you about almost enjoying the struggle. It's kind of that's the cycle that you're used to, or you keep throwing yourself into it. That also might come from that identity lens as well, just because like always felt the need to one experience and do everything perfectly to set that example, two to just navigate everything for everyone and solve all the problems. I love solving a problem, even though it causes so much turmoil. But the thing is, I also use that as a tool to procrastinate because I'd rather focus on other people and their problems than address my own. And that's the thing, I always get whatever I am going to need to get done, I always get it done. It's just a
Mhm.
matter of when and under how much stress does
Yes,
that happen,
I'm the
right?
same way. It's like it's gonna
Yeah.
get done, but I don't know. How
Yeah.
it gets done is questionable.
Literally, I need to like unchain myself from that cycle and just do things. I just honestly have to talk to myself and get it together. I literally tell myself that and then I just go and do it and I'm always so much better for it. Even the little things of like self-care, making sure that we're doing our workout. What will future Natasha thank me for? Sometimes it's really hard to put yourself in that headspace, but sometimes you just have to because again, there's no one here to tell me that I have to do anything. None of us have to do anything. Even taxes, you don't necessarily have to do it. There will be consequences. There are things that you should do just for yourself. That's also something where you just have to recognize that you're worth investing in, especially in our 20s. That's just something to really also focus on and recognize and remember as well.
Yes, I love that you said that. And now I'm 30, which is interesting.
Right. No,
I'm
yeah.
in my little 30s, but I agree. Right? I think no matter the age, I feel like you could be 50 years old and worry about procrastination. I love what you said about the future you. Do you think that's part of shifting our mindset when we are
Mhm.
procrastinators? Because we
Mhm.
procrastinate because of our mindset. We're thinking a certain way. If we had that mindset of, let's say you're in school and you say, maybe I don't want to sit down and write this essay for my
Yeah.
class in grad school right now. Or maybe I don't want to do my taxes right now. Like you said, eventually those things have to get done and future us will thank us. So if
Mhm.
we change our mindset essentially and really start thinking about how we thank ourselves in the future, that's something that could bode people well.
Yeah. Okay. Even on the note of school, for example, one thing that I also struggle with is like, if I start doing something, it's like I feel the need to finish it. That's something, if you're in school or even if you're writing in general, or something that I'm trying to unlearn and then relearn in a different way is that I know how I write. I know that I write well and I know that I can get it done, but I would always push it off till the last minute before that essay or whatever is due because I have to do it all at once. Versus other people will be like, I started on my paper and they'll do a paragraph at a time, but they start it early enough that maybe they're writing a paragraph every couple days. And that's just a lot better for everyone in your mindset and coming to things with a fresh mind. I recommend for anyone who's in that position, start breaking up things into smaller bits to work on rather than saying that you have to do it all at once because again, you don't have to do that. It's just not sustainable for any task. Sometimes you do have to wait. I struggle a lot with that impatience of just, for example, once I move into a new space, I have to set up everything right away. I have to set up my room right away. I have to do that all right away.
Mhm.
Everything needs to be good to go right this second.
Yeah.
And breaking things into more approachable chunks, and being okay with following that schedule and being consistent is better than sporadic doing it all at once. I'm really trying to work on my routine right now because I could have one day where I do a million things and get everything done, and then the next day it's literally nothing at all gets done. We're trying to be consistent, right? We're not trying to.
Yes, we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. Just breaking things down is fine too.
Yes. I'm glad you brought that up as well because this is another thing I talked about with my friend who has ADHD. He
Mhm.
said, one of the things that I'm really trying to hone in with myself around my routine, that especially with decision making, making impact is so important when you are
Mhm.
a procrastinator. And by that, he meant, like you said, if you break your things down, maybe that goal of doing your taxes, you have to do federal taxes. And if you live in Boston, you definitely have some state taxes. Maybe you say, okay, I'm going to start with my federal taxes, do that,
Yeah.
XYZ, do those. I'm going to save it, come back a different day, and then do the state taxes. And then I'll come back and then check it and then file it. Those
Yeah.
now you've separated the entire tax thing into different sections. But
Mhm.
when you finish that first section, you've made a progress, you've made impact.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a little bit of progress is better than no progress.
Mhm. I talked about this on my pod recently. I've recognized that I live in absolutes, either 0 or 100,
Mhm.
when the numbers in between are arguably more important. That's actually measuring the progress.
That's true.
It's okay to break down your day, break down your week. Maybe today you focus on one area of your life or you focus on one area of your house. I was watching a YouTube video recently where the YouTuber was saying how she actually decided to reframe, and instead of doing day checklists, she has week checklist where she knows that she wants, let's say, okay, she knows she wants to go to the gym 4 times that week. She's not saying that it has to be Monday through Thursday. She's saying goal is that in this week she needs to go to the gym 4 times, breaking it down in terms of that. So you still give yourself a time frame, but it's less pressure than trying to fit it all within 5 hours.
Mhm.
It might be helpful to think of things in that way. Like you're getting in your own way.
Yes, I agree. I mean, that's the thing with procrastination, though. We are in our own way.
Yeah.
Whether
Yeah.
we're one type or most types. And I'm glad that you sort of talked about a few strategies of how you've tried to work through it. One thing I've tried to do is something like the 5 minute rule. So, especially when you, in your mind, you think something
Mhm.
more complicated, get started with those small steps, like you mentioned earlier, Natasha, and shift your mindset. Maybe you
Mhm.
do part of that activity for 5 minutes. I'm going to write my essay for 5 minutes. I'm going to try to do my taxes for the next 5 minutes. If you can start with at least 5 minutes, it gives you
Yeah.
somewhere to start. And then you
Yeah.
can spend your time. Maybe you start working on it for 5 minutes. You're like, I'm already in it. Let me do it. Because once you're in the
Mhm.
momentum, you're more likely to stay in that momentum anyways. I would say it's safe to do 5 minutes because it's so little time that it can help you at least get on that
Yeah.
track that you want to get on. The other
I
thing
love
too,
that.
yeah. The other thing too would be some people do time blocking. I do that
Yes.
at work actually too. I'm going to hold this time for myself. If you block time, it gives you more purpose for that time. It makes you a little more intentional because you're not going to try
Mhm.
to, hopefully, schedule something else over it. So you are
Mhm.
being intentional about what you will do with that time.
Yeah.
The other thing too, some other people do deadlines. That way, not necessarily that you're rushing yourself, but at least it gives you a chance to start it, do a draft, and then you still have a few days left to not
Mhm.
freak out about it, and you can still change it if you want.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. There's been a trend like how people like set timers on their phones. So like, okay, for the next 10 minutes, I'm gonna do this thing. That's so helpful. I've done that sometimes, but I should start doing it more because then you kind of know when the end is coming, which I think
Yeah.
is what scares people too. We all need to just stop being afraid of the outcome from the perfectionist angle.
Girl, you're saying that we should stop overthinking so much? That's crazy.
No, literally. And because, okay, for example, so there was one time I was walking with a friend, and she runs a lot as well. And I was telling her about how I just get so afraid of how tired I'll feel on the run, how painful it is. I know that I'm going to feel tired. I know that I'm going to be out of breath or whatever. I know that it's going to be painful at points. Okay. And a lot of times we want things to just be smooth, or we don't want to feel any sort of struggle. When we're doing a task, we don't want to have to put any thought into it. At the end of the day, things are going to happen. Just do it. One thing that I always start with is when I have a lot on my list, I always start with washing the dishes because I find washing the dishes really therapeutic. Maybe this is a small thing that I'm doing, but it's something that gives me a lot of sense of accomplishment after I'm done. When you have a clean clear sink
Mhm.
and your bed is made, I start with that. Start with what's right in front of you. Make your bed, do your dishes.
Yes, start with those things that are right in your
Mhm.
face.
And
Right?
celebrate that. Those are things that can really get in the way, or they can be hard depending on the day.
Yeah.
Or it's just something that can fall to the wayside. That is a small sense of accomplishment that you can give yourself every day before climbing up the larger mountains.
Yeah. One of the things that we don't do enough is celebrating the small wins. Because
Yes.
we don't do that enough. I feel that we are very hard on ourselves about
Mhm.
literally anything, whether it's professional stuff, where we are in life, where we
Mhm.
live, what kind of life we're living. One, that's about the comparison thing, right? Comparison is a thief of joy. We should not do that. But
Yeah.
I do think part of it is that as well, where we don't really celebrate the small wins. This podcast, one of the goals that I had was this year, I want to be consistently posting every week,
Yeah.
which I wasn't
Mhm.
doing before. It did seem more difficult before, but one of the things that I was like, I have to make time on this. I can't procrastinate. If I'm able to get that, that's to me is a small win.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so little and it's just a personal accomplishment. I don't owe
Mhm.
anybody that. I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
But it's something that I am choosing to do. Last weekend, I did a trash pickup in my
Mhm.
neighborhood. And to me, that was a small win because I live in the neighborhood. I walk around. Nobody's paying me for that. It was cold and snowy, and I was
Yeah.
out there picking up trash. But I did that because I want my neighborhood to look nice. I want you to walk
Yes.
around
Yes.
being a pedestrian and see nice streets. So that
Yeah.
was a small win for me. Yes, I could have stayed in and been like, oh, it's cold, it's XYZ. But I
Yeah.
thought of it as a small win in the sense that it only took a few hours. It was
Literally.
we were done by noon. So I literally had the rest of the day to do whatever I wanted. And I felt
Yeah.
that was something that I could have done that was very
Mhm.
small that I really just did for myself in the sense, also for my community, but still, we're too hard on ourselves. We
Yeah.
don't give ourselves enough room to make mistakes. We're all just living this life trying to figure it out. I think that's
Mhm.
the thing that we all forget.
I agree.
Procrastinate, but it's okay. And I think that we're not told enough that it's okay. Like you said earlier, that we can make mistakes. I think a lot of us procrastinate, even probably no matter what age you are, because we feel like we need to justify certain things.
That's the thing. I think the people in power, they want us to live in fear because they don't want us to get things done for ourselves. I think it's really important to just stop getting in the way of ourselves, stop living in fear of our own actions. Otherwise, you're just going through the motions and you're living the same life you've always lived and it's not getting any better, any easier. Imagine if you didn't care about what the outcome would be and you just went ahead and did it anyway. Something that we all need to keep in mind because we shouldn't be kept down. You can come up.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And it's one of those things, like we said, that it does take time.
Mhm.
Maybe you're a procrastinator. Maybe one time you succeed at not procrastinating. It's
Mhm.
probably going to happen again, though. So
Mhm.
obviously, don't be so hard on yourself, but just also recognize that these types of things take time because it is a habit. And as
Mhm.
with any other habit, you're not going to be perfect at it the first time. So don't feel bad when you have success with not procrastinating, but then you do procrastinate. It
Yeah.
is what it is. At least you didn't do that other time.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I know we've talked about procrastination for this episode,
Mhm.
but Natasha, you did talk to us about all of your talents earlier in this episode, and I was curious. You said that you're a writer. What type
Mhm.
of writing or what kind of things do you like to write about?
Yeah, so I have a website and I also have a Substack as well, which I publish more throughout the years on my blog. The Substack is a lot newer, but I do a lot of most like the podcast in written form. I write about just a lot of things that I'm experiencing in life, like a lot of commentary on things that are happening in the world and how that relates to me or the things that we can be doing in our communities, bringing the larger things back in and from that level. So, and then a lot of times it's kind of listing out my thoughts. I feel like I'm just always writing things in my head about different things that I've experienced. And I've written a lot of things from pain or just like experiences that I've gone through that haven't always been the best. But I also try to tap in writing from joy as well and the amazing things that I'm experiencing. I want to write posts about my trip to India recently. I've been to India about like a dozen times in my life. I was born in the US, and then my family generally went like every other year.
Mhm.
But I did have quite a big gap from because of the pandemic and stuff. Like the last time I had been before February was 2019. I had like 5.5 year gap.
Mhm.
And that was the longest time I had been away because I went for a wedding. So I actually didn't see any of my family because I didn't go to that part of India. It was also weird only going to India for 5 days because that's just really far to go for a very small amount of time and just not very practical. But again, we're chained to the world of PTO. Yeah, went to India and I felt it definitely was it was so much fun, but also very jarring because usually when I go to India, it's like I'm going there to see my family. But I didn't this time and I was going for a wedding
You were
feeling,
more
but
like a visitor.
yeah, so it felt kind of weird in that sense, but it also was a really great experience. Again, being there with my friends was also just really wild. That's something that I want to write about, just experiences with that, the things that I felt going through that. I think I write from a lot of emotion and
Mhm.
lessons that I've learned.
Bringing it back to our topic, actually, do you procrastinate when it comes to your writing?
So that's the thing that I'm struggling with a lot, I would say, especially over the past couple of years. I put out writing, I published writing, but I love writing so much and it's such an important thing to me. And I do really, really, really want to write a book. Writing is so, so important to me. And I read so much too. Words are really important to me, but I always, again, expect my writing to be perfect and to be exceptional and to do have a lot of people from like random people who read my stuff or whatever, like based on the stats or the random comments I get, especially on my website. And so you never know who's going to be reading or consuming it. But again, I get so caught up in perception rather than just putting the things that I want to say out there. And I sometimes just don't even know where to begin because there's so many things that I want to say about things that are happening in the world and just the struggles that we all face as people going through
Mhm.
the world and moving through the world. And I don't even know where to start because so much stuff is going on and it's so overwhelming. How do I even formulate my thoughts around this? But the thing is, that's how in the past I was writing, especially in college, I was publishing on my blog so consistently. I used it as a way to process those things. And I really want to take the time to do that now. I think also feeling drained from work and just feeling drained from life. And post pandemic and stuff, it's just hard to have that same like
Drive or
energy, like
yeah.
yeah, that I once had. And so I definitely that's I feel like I see procrastination really come to the forefront, especially with my writing. I'm trying to just put less pressure on myself and to just write when I feel like it and just like go. I write out something, I don't have to publish it right then and there. I can put it away, come back to it, edit it. Because I always feel like as soon as I write something, it's like I have to edit it in that moment. I have to do all of it in that moment. I don't have to do that. It's about let's do things in more digestible pieces.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, write it,
yeah,
let it sink in, and then go back and update it based on that. I
yeah,
agree. I think that is one of the things. Feeling like I have to do everything now, which we talked about earlier,
mhm,
it's really not helpful for somebody who's a procrastinator or for somebody who's a perfectionist for sure.
yeah,
So yeah, letting things be, I think. And this brings back what you said earlier about being impatient. We want everything to happen now.
yeah,
Right? And just like with your writing, like you said, sometimes it is okay. You're not publishing it right now. It's not going to be out. It's just
mhm,
in your own personal thing. It's okay to let it
mhm,
lay there for some time and then you can go
yeah,
back to it. Yeah, that's
mhm.
great. And so that brings me to my final question. Do you have any advice for folks who are procrastinators or even writers?
Yes, really comes down to mindset for everything.
Yeah.
There are larger issues that get in the way systemically or socially, but at the end of the day, it's between you and yourself. And that doesn't, one, need to be a competition. The other thing is, it's purely mindset. So set yourself up for success. You know how your moods are going to be based on certain situations. Try to work around those. If you know that you aren't a morning person or you aren't a night person, or if you know that you're most productive between this time and this time, then set yourself up for that. Positive self talk goes a long way as well when it comes to mindset. I think a lot of times we can fall into, oh, like, I won't be able to accomplish this. I won't be able to do this. I would turn that around and be like, who said you can't? You can do this. Talking to yourself and having that mindset is really important. I think going along with that is so I journal a lot. I journal every day. or at least try to do so.
Mhm.
I think writing wise, but also just generally like on the note of procrastination, physically writing things out by hand, I think is really important.
What?
And
This is the 21st, this is 2025.
that's the thing, right? Like it's just nice to ground yourself in that way. You're not distracted by notification or by blue light, just you in the journal, and you are the only person who's going to see it. You're the one who has control of it. So put everything out on the page. Make your to-do list in there if you want to do that, and talk to yourself. Both start with the negatives, start with the things that maybe the toxic thing. I have some entries that I would consider toxic, but then I have some entries that I would consider important and necessary and helpful and healthy. All of that can be in there. And that's where your mindset starts, between you and the page. There's literally nothing else coming in that cloud at that moment. That's really nice. I'm at a point where if I go a few days without journaling, I can feel it. I can feel this sort of agitation almost. And when you journal, when you create that space and that mindset for yourself, it almost feels unstoppable. Whether you journal at night or you journal at the morning, it's a very meditative practice, journaling and reading. And then you go into your sleep and you go into the next day, or you start in the morning and you go into your day on that note, on that positive mindset.
Mhm.
Mindset honestly is like
Everything.
when you see successful people who are super talented, the only difference between you and them is the fact that they pushed through and they said, I can do this.
Yeah, literally.
Right?
Because they can't tell the future. None of us can. This is where I'm trying to go, and I'm going to try to make it happen. And if they had a negative mindset, then they're not going to get there. It's going to
That's the thing. In a world literally built on barriers and filled with barriers, don't be one for yourself. Don't be another one.
should be on a t-shirt. In a world with barriers, don't be one. Don't be one yourself. Yeah.
Just help yourself, you know?
Agreed. Agreed. Thank you for that advice to the listener. And
For sure.
we well, I guess before we wrap up, definitely want to make sure we'll have your podcast link in the bio, but can you tell us a little bit about your podcast?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, it's kind of like what I was talking about with my writing, where I talk a lot about things happening in society, whether it's world events or current events, also things happening in pop culture, and relate that back to lessons we can learn from that together. I talk a lot about my experiences on there too, and just again, how I've grown and learned from those things, current fears that I have or current feelings that I have. And the whole idea is like create a space that really cultivates, it's called Lots of Love. So it really cultivates love, like the foundation, right? Community and everything else. We may be talking about hard things, but that's because of the love that I have for this world and the love that I have for everyone who's listening. We need to talk about the hard things. We need to stand up for what's right. And that's what's going to perpetuate the love that we have. Kind of also similar to yours, like on that self-reflection, self-improvement front too.
That's great. Folks, definitely check out Natasha's podcast, Lots of Love. And thanks for listening to Lush Life No Labels. Like and subscribe to Lush Life No Labels on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And cheers to your lush life. See you later. Thank you, Natasha, for being on this pod today.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.